Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ Resurrection Part 1 is officially happening, but the sequel is shaping up to be pretty controversial. Back in 2004, The Passion of the Christ really made waves, especially among American evangelicals, and it did well internationally too. The film mainly drew from the Gospel of John, but it also mixed in a bunch of Catholic traditions and the visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. However, it stirred up a lot of controversy, particularly with accusations of anti-Semitism, which didn't help given Gibson's own personal issues. Since that first film, Gibson has been vocal about wanting to make a sequel that picks up the story. It's clear that The Passion of the Christ was a major player in Hollywood's biblical epic scene, so it's no shock that Gibson wants to turn this into a bit of a franchise, especially since franchises often bring in more audiences than standalone films. Still, it's going to be interesting to see if Gibson can create another hit that resonates with the same evangelical crowd that loved the original. After years of development chatter, we finally have a solid update on The Passion of the Christ Resurrection. In September 2024, Mel Gibson's publicist, Alan Nerob, shared a small but promising tidbit with the media. All we can confirm is they were scouting locations recently, not a lot to discuss at this early stage, hinting that things are slowly progressing behind the scenes. However, it's still unclear when filming will start or if the previously mentioned 2025 release window is still viable. Originally announced in June 2016, the sequel to The Passion of the Christ generated buzz, with screenwriter Randall Wallace stating, "The Passion is the beginning and there's a lot more story to tell." He even suggested that evangelical communities believed the sequel could be even bigger than the first. Although updates were sparse for a while, Jim Caviezel, who starred in the original film, confirmed in 2018 that development was underway, hinting at a grand scale. This latest update suggests that The Passion of the Christ 2 is indeed still moving forward, which is somewhat surprising given the first film's mixed reception. While The Passion of the Christ faced criticism for its graphic violence and was condemned by some Jewish groups for perceived anti-Semitic undertones, it seems the sequel is undeterred. Although the movie's IMDb page initially listed a 2024 release date, it now indicates 2025 as the expected timeframe, still categorized as in pre-production. With Gibson and Wallace collaborating on the script, the anticipation continues to build, as both have expressed their desire to expand on the original story, aiming for what Caviezel called the biggest film in world history. One of the most exciting updates from The Passion of the Christ 2 camp is that Jim Caviezel is set to reprise his iconic role as Jesus. The original film was a huge highlight of his career, and since then, he's taken on various roles in films and TV shows like Outlander, The Prisoner, and Person of Interest. He also dipped back into the biblical genre for Paul, Apostle of Christ, where he played Luke opposite James Faulkner's portrayal of Paul. In a nice twist, several cast members from the 20-year-old original film are also coming back to help tell this epic story alongside Caviezel. Maia Morgenstern is returning as Mary, Jesus' mother, which is fantastic news given her pivotal role. Francesco DeVito will once again portray Peter, one of Jesus' most famous apostles. Additionally, there are rumors that Christo Gikov might reprise his role as John, although he hasn't officially signed on yet. While the plot details of The Passion of the Christ Resurrection Chapter 1 remain unknown, speculation has been running wild. Many reports suggest that the focus won't be solely on Jesus' resurrection. Instead, it's believed the film will explore the 3 days between Jesus' death and resurrection. This period, often viewed by Christians as when Jesus descended into hell, has a lot of potential for dramatic storytelling. Given that many scenes in the first film weren't strictly from the Bible, it seems likely that the sequel will continue that trend, diving into themes and narratives that expand on the traditional biblical account. With such a strong returning cast and fresh ideas, this film could offer a compelling new chapter in the story. One of the most notable additions Mel Gibson made in The Passion of the Christ is a flashback scene where Jesus is shown inventing a table. This fictional moment is meant to highlight Jesus' role as a carpenter, illustrating his relationship with his mother Mary. While not much is documented about Jesus' life between childhood and his public ministry, it's widely believed he apprenticed with his father in carpentry. However, the idea of him inventing tables and chairs feels more like a creative leap than historical fact. This scene serves to suggest that Jesus had a deep connection with his mother and alludes to his divine knowledge from a young age. Another significant flashback retells the powerful gospel moment when Jesus is confronted with the case of an adulterous woman. According to the law, he could have initiated her stoning, but instead, he chooses to write something mysterious in the sand and invites anyone without sin to cast the first stone. This moment is cherished in early church teachings as it highlights Jesus' grace and character, as he was the only one without sin and therefore had the right to condemn her. In Gibson's film, this scene features Monica Bellucci as Mary Magdalene, though the Bible does not identify the adulterous woman as her. This blend of characters reflects a Catholic tradition that is debated by modern biblical scholars. The film also heavily adapts the story of Judas Iscariot, portraying him as a man manipulated into betrayal by Satan. In a dramatic scene in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas approaches Jesus, leading a group of temple guards. However, historically, such a large Jewish assembly would not likely have been permitted by the Romans due to the political and religious tensions of the time. According to the Gospels, Judas was actually followed by a mob armed with swords and clubs. Later, the film heightens the drama surrounding Judas's suicide, showing him tormented by Satan and a group of demonic children. This portrayal draws inspiration from the visions of Mary of Jesus of Agreda, showcasing Gibson's unique interpretation of Judas's tragic story. Overall, while these artistic choices serve to enhance the narrative's emotional weight, they also stretch the boundaries of biblical accuracy, sparking debates among scholars and viewers alike about the liberties taken in retelling these ancient stories. Even with the wheels turning on The Passion of the Christ 2, I can't shake the feeling that this film might stir up even more controversy than the first. For starters, having Mel Gibson at the helm is a risky move, since he's not exactly in good standing these days thanks to his past controversies. Plus, Jim Caviezel, who's back as Jesus, was part of the 2023 film Sound of Freedom. While that movie did well financially, it also faced a lot of criticism, which could follow him into this new project. These off-screen dramas are bound to add some complexity to the production of Passion of the Christ 2. However, it's important to remember that the film is still in the early stages of development. Right now, they're in the pre-production phase, doing things like location scouting. There's still plenty of time for the team to figure out how to navigate these challenges and possibly bring in some fresh creative voices to shake things up. With the right approach, this sequel could turn into something truly compelling and relevant, despite the baggage it carries. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future videos in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated. If you have any feedback about this video, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments too.